What? What is arctangent doing in here? There's even an arc cosine. Oh, dang. We're going to do some thinking here. Now, I got to talk about inverse functions because if you're now working on this, you're probably forgetting all about inverse functions and their properties. Now, it's important that we know, first of all, let's start. It's important to know what the range is for arctan and what the range is for arc cosine. You got to remember that stuff. So think about arctangent. This is how I remember. With arctangent, our function goes like this. Oh, that's hideous. Sorry. There we go. That's a little better. It goes like that. And so your y values are between two horizontal asymptotes. You guys remember what those horizontal asymptotes are? No, you don't? Okay. Negative pi over 2 and positive pi over 2. Okay, and what about the range for arc cosine? That is 0 to pi. And we include those. Okay, so those are the ranges for arctan and arc cosine, and we got to know those. And so let me talk some more about these guys. Okay, so here's your arc cosine graph. Sorry, before we talk more about these guys. You remember this because the y-axis is your theta, because that's your result, and what you're plugging in here are the side values. Okay, so you think of all the side values on your regular cosine function. Here's your regular cosine function. Yay, we all remember this guy. They go from -1 to +1. And so all the values that are right here, that's the x-axis here. And so if you plugged in a -1, you get pi. If you plug in a +1, you get 0. I know it's weird, but it's actually for our cosine, it's easier for me to remember this than it is to remember the graph. I always have a hard time remembering that graph. Okay, and then also you got to remember this stuff. If I had cosine, I plug theta into it. Now, what does theta represent? Do you guys remember? Remember, it represents an angle. And then over here we have the sides. So I'm going to put A over H for adjacent over hypotenuse. And so for cosine, you plug in an angle, you get sides. But the opposite, arc cosine or cosine inverse, you plug in sides. So I'm going to say A divided by H. You plug in sides, and then you get an angle. So your result is an angle. So these inverse functions are giving us angles, which is what's supposed to be inside of cosine. So our job right now is to figure out what these angles are. And that can be a little difficult. So let's talk about arctangent first. Okay, we're going to figure that out before we get on with this problem. What is arctangent? Let's see. Arctangent of 1. Where does tangent equal 1? Let's look at our unit circle. Now remember, the range for arctangent is from -pi over 2, which is right here, -pi over 2 to +pi over 2. And so that means our answer for this has to be an angle in these two quadrants. So where does arctangent equal 1? Do you guys remember where tangent equals 1? Right here, right? That's at pi over 4. And that equals a +1. If I came down here, that would equal a -1. So that means this guy right here gives me pi over 4. So let's rewrite what we have so far. We have cosine of pi over 4. And then it says plus. Now we got to figure out this angle right here that it gives us. What does arc cosine of x give us? Now this, you've never seen before, and this is difficult and annoying. You guys ready? Now remember the x, what's inside of arc cosine? Those are the sides, right? Right. Those are the sides. So I'm going to draw a triangle to help us visualize this. Now if my side is adjacent over a hypotenuse and it just says x in there, what is my adjacent and my hypotenuse sides? Theta is what we're looking for. Because this is supposed to give me an angle. If inside, let's say arc cosine says x over 1, what's your adjacent side? The adjacent side is x. What's your hypotenuse? Uno. Okay. Now, how can we find this side? All right. I don't want to give it another variable. I want to have the same variable. Like, I want to have x. What is this side in relationship to x? All right, take a ride with me, guys. Here we go. I'm going to give it a b, and we're going to say x squared plus b squared equals 1 squared. Because you guys, that's familiar to you guys, right? Yeah. Okay, so how do I get b alone? I'm going to have to subtract x from both sides. So this gives me b squared equals 1 minus x squared. Am I going too fast? I moved the x squared over to this side, so I have 1 minus x squared. How do I get this b alone now? Square root. So I'm going to square root that, and I get square root of 1 minus x squared. And I can't simplify that. I have to leave it as it stands. So my opposite side is this nasty looking thing. My adjacent side is this thing. And here's my hypotenuse. Okay, and what's this theta right here? Oh, you know what? You know what would have been better for me to do? Instead of writing theta right here, let's write what the angle actually is. The angle is arc cosine of x. This is an angle. Whoa, that's weird. That's right. That's what I said over here, right? Arc cosine of something is an angle. So instead of writing theta, I'm just writing arc cosine of x. Okay, so I'm going to leave the arc cosine in right there. So here's my angle. Arc cosine. I know some of you guys are thinking, oh, this is, I'm just going to give up. No, don't give up yet. Let's use the formula really fast, and you guys can see how this might simply work out, maybe. Okay, so you guys remember the formula? It's cosine of pi over 4 plus, no, not plus, sorry, times cosine of arc cosine, the other angle. And then we have to subtract because it says add, and our formula says we need to subtract. Then we have sine of pi over 4. And then we're going to go sine times sine of arc cosine of x. Now, what is arc cosine of x? It's an angle. Don't forget that. So let's take care of these first guys right here. It's not that bad now. Watch. Everything will start looking pretty again. Cosine of pi over 4, that's rad 2 over 2. And what is cosine of arc cosine of x? Remember, these just cancel out. We just get x. And then we have minus. We have sine of pi over 4. That's going to be rad 2 over 2. No problem. But this is the part where I feel like I'm going to lose people. Right here. Sine of this angle. What is that? What's that angle? That angle is right here. Remember? What's the opposite side of this angle? Because we're doing the sine. What's the opposite side? It's that. And what's the hypotenuse? It's 1. Now, I don't have to divide by 1, right? Because it's just the same thing. So that equals square root of 1 minus x squared. Now, that's probably the hardest thing to wrap your mind around right now. This is an angle, and that angle represents this triangle that we figured out. And so now we have that. Oh, that was ugly. That was really ugly. Okay, let's put this x up here with that rad 2. And let's put this guy up here with this rad 2. And so now I have x times rad 2 minus rad 2 minus 2x squared. And that's all divided by 2. Because we have common denominators. I'm going to leave my answer like that. That is ugly. But that is how you do it.